Welcome to Thursday Thoughts, your weekly dose of real, honest conversation on all things personal growth. These are the chats Lucy and I love having every week over on Instagram. They're unfiltered, unedited, and always rooted in practical tools and a dose of inspiration. Let's dive in.
Shall I begin, as this was one of my suggestions?
Yeah, go for it.
So, and I love this topic. So we are talking this morning about enthusiasm, which I personally think is one of the most underrated traits, if it's a trait. And it's something that I really I speak from the heart, because I feel like I've always been very enthusiastic just by nature. Like, it's just something I've always had, and I kind of can't help it. It just comes completely naturally. My sister has a tendency towards it too. It's just one of those things. And I spent years, particularly at school, feeling like basically sort of having the piss taken out of me for being so enthusiastic. But as I've got older, I've realized that actually enthusiasm is like a superpower, because I think it's what kind of propels you to do things, take action on things that you feel passionate about. Not to mention the fact that enthusiasm is one of the highest vibrational states that you can get in. And there's a Taylor Swift quote, I can't actually remember exactly what it is, but basically she talks about this. She basically says how the worst kind of people are the people who sort of laugh at someone who gets really excited. And I don't know about you, but I have been in that situation so many times in my life where I've been really overexcited about something, whether it be a song or something, because I feel music very, very, very deeply. It is like my absolute passion. And I've always been that friend who, when I fall in love with a song, I want everybody to hear it. And I sit people down and go, oh my God, you've got to listen to this song. It's the most amazing thing. And they're like, yeah, okay. But as Taylor Swift says, she basically talks about in this quote, and I wish I could remember what she said, but basically she is saying essentially that, we shouldn't be shaming people for getting excited about things. And it's so fucking true. And so many people are walking around the world moaning and complaining and feeling miserable and feeling shit. And actually, many of us could really do to kind of find some enthusiasm, because it's just such a powerful and joyful thing to feel. And actually, the word enthusiasm means in spirit or of God. So when you are enthusiastic about something, you are really in that, and you can feel it, because when you're just being enthusiastic just from your soul, like you just feel so aligned. And so it doesn't surprise me that it means in spirit, because essentially when you're coming from a place of enthusiasm, you are coming from that higher part of you, that kind of really, that soul part of you, no holes barred. And just to say, for people who, it's really interesting, because if you watch the people that take the piss out of the enthusiastic people, they are more often than not the people who are sitting on the sidelines, judging away, smirking, giggling, and actually they're not out on the field themselves, so fuck them. And I reckon we should all turn up our enthusiasm dial to 110, quite frankly, because I think it's great to be enthusiastic.
Yeah, it's so funny when you suggested this topic. I was like, oh, that's so strange, because I did a values exercise where you kind of think about what your top values are, your priorities are, and actually, which are a really good guideline of how to live your life. And enthusiasm was one of my top 5 traits. I think it's so important, because if you feel enthusiastic for something, then that's such a good guide that you are on the right path. And for me, that I always come back to that. Does it make me feel really excited and enthusiastic and just like that, you've got that feeling of like, yes, this is really what I want to do, then that is, for me, is like the best guide of anything. It's kind of like a mixture of feelings of excitement, of curiosity, of it's slightly the unknown, isn't it? It's like, oh my gosh, I don't quite know what's going to happen. And it is that feeling of excitement, but it's just it just gives you energy, feeling enthusiastic, and it would kind of sit, in that hierarchy of scale of emotions. It really does sit up there with joy and love and
Yeah.
excitement, because for anyone who doesn't know, there is this scale, and I don't know who created that scale.
Is it Maslow's high? No, that's Maslow's
No, that's
hierarchy of
needs.
needs. I'm talking
No,
about.
it's like that rainbow scale,
Yeah,
which
I
is
know
of all the
exactly what you
emotions, and
mean.
you've got kind of fear and grief and apathy and guilt all at the
Yeah,
bottom,
yeah.
and then where it starts to change is courage. Um, and then above courage, you've kind of got some neutral emotions, and then you move into these sort of higher vibrational emotions. And courage, I think, is the one in the middle, because that's you. I love that, because it's like you're actually taking an action forward. It's like, we all know that when we take a leap of faith, or you're moving forward, and so it kind of moves you into these high vibrational emotions. And enthusiasm is right up there, and that is, you can feel it. Everything feels
Yeah.
lighter and brighter and more energetic. Everything's feeling
The
a bit
best
fuzzy.
feeling.
It really is the best feeling. And I know that when I get enthusiastic about something, I tend to talk about a million miles per hour. I tend to not be able to get my words out. I've always thought, oh, it's quite annoying because I'm not as coherent and clear as I perhaps would like to be. And I really notice that if I'm on podcasts talking, if I'm the guest and I start talking about something I really enjoy, I'll listen back and going, oh my God, I was speaking so fast and out it came. It's like, bleh. But actually, it's a great feeling, and I don't think
Yeah.
we should dismiss that, and I don't think we should look at that that's a bad thing, because it is the best feeling, and I love feeling enthusiastic about things, and I love it when you talk to somebody else who is enthusiastic about something. It rubs off on you. It's this energy which
Totally.
is so magnetic,
Yeah.
because you then immediately become quite enthusiastic. And so if you want to attract things to you and attract people to you, by being enthusiastic, immediately you're going to draw people in, because it's contagious.
Yeah, it is so, so, so true. It is totally contagious. It's like when somebody is and this is why I think enthusiasm and slash excitement is such a cool trait to have, because if you think about it, if somebody is talking about something that they're really excited about and really enthusiastic about, you cannot help but want to hear more, because like you say, it is such an infectious feeling, it's such an infectious vibe. I absolutely love it. And you mentioned like how you want to, when you feel enthusiasm, you kind of know you're on the right track, and this sort of speaks to something that you and I have talked about loads, which is following what feels good. I've talked about this on my podcast so many times, because I swear to God, this is what we all want to be kind of living by, is we want to be moving towards the things that feel good and that make us feel that enthusiasm that we're talking about, and we want to be moving away from the things that do the opposite. And when you feel enthusiastic about something, it's like it just gives you so much energy. And like you were saying, how when I love when people are talking about things that they're enthusiastic about, precisely because you're so overexcited about it. Like you say, you're like blah, 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 talking at a million miles an hour. But is that not the best feeling in the world? It's like you're just feeling it. Like, again, I get the thing that I always think about is a song. Like when I discover a song, a new song that I fall in love with, literally there is nothing in this world that makes me feel like discovering a new song makes me feel. Like I cannot even express how deeply I feel that, and how much it moves me, and how I get so enthusiastic about this song. And I can literally, I think I've said this on here before, but I can literally do like a 2-hour car journey. I'm not kidding you. I can listen to the same song over and over again. Like it's weird. Like it's a bit kind of ADHD. Like I really, if I fall in love with a song, this is why I know the words of every single bloody song, because I listen to them 5,000 times. But anyway, it really is that sort of enthusiastic feeling that whatever it is that we can feel is lighting us up, that is what we should be following, that is what we should be trying to move towards. And that's not to say, I'm sure there's people kind of thinking, oh well, I'm stuck in this job that I hate, or whatever it may be. but even if your life isn't ideal right now, you can still be making little moves in the direction of the things that do excite you and do light you up. You can do it at the same time. There are many people who are doing like a 9 to 5 job that isn't necessarily what they want to do for the rest of their lives, and in their free time, in the evenings and at the weekends, they're off taking photos because photography is their passion. Like, we can be following the things that light us up and make us feel enthusiastic at the same time as having to do certain things that we don't necessarily want to be doing. And so, yeah, I just think it's like it's the feeling that we want to follow. And actually, if you don't feel enthusiastic about anything in your life, I think you've got to ask yourself why. Like, we should I'm not saying we should be walking around all day going, oh my god, I'm so enthusiastic, but we should be feeling enthusiastic at least, I don't know, once a day or once a week. If you are in a place where you realize that there is nothing in your life that you're enthusiastic about, that is a sign that something needs to change. And I think we should actually be intentionally cultivating we should be finding things that make us enthusiastic, because if we are not feeling enthusiasm about life, about any aspect of our life, that is not a good thing, and something's got to change.
I will only ever recommend brands that I know, love, and use myself. And one of those is Ancient and Brave. Honestly, they've become part of my daily habits. The very first thing I do every morning is pour myself a big glass of water with their True Hydration in it. It feels like such a simple ritual, but it really sets me up for the day. And I know I'm properly rehydrating with their blend of electrolytes and minerals, especially before I exercise, which I always do in the morning. Then later on, when I make my coffee, I stir in their True Collagen powder into the coffee. Now, it blends in straight away, no fuss, there's no taste, and collagen is something we naturally lose as we age, but it's so important for our skin, joints, and overall vitality. Now, I'll be honest, Ancient and Brave may cost a little more than some of the tubs you'll spot on supermarket shelves, but the difference is you're getting the highest quality ingredients, sourced with integrity and tested to a higher standard, and absolutely no nasties added. That's why I trust them and why I think they're worth every penny. And because I want you to be able to try them out for yourself, I've got a special offer for you. As a listener of this podcast, you can get 20% off your very first order. All you need to do is click the link in the show notes and pop in the code POLYW20 at checkout. They've got more than just collagen and hydration too. They've got creatine, they've got blends, supplements. So it's a perfect chance to explore their range and make the most of that 20% off.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think if you're at a point where everything feels heavy, everything feels tricky, then it's really just about exploring what is that spark of perhaps curiosity. It really does, I think, begin with becoming curious about something. What is that spark of like, oh, that's interesting, and follow that and see where that might lead you. Can you just kind of just go, oh, curiosity is literally the opposite of all those negative feelings. It just opens you up a little bit. And so moving towards that and exploring it a little bit more and just opening up a whole new area that perhaps you haven't explored before can bring sort of joy. And just follow that joy. It's literally like a little spark of joy. And, I think when you do that, and then maybe, you just think about how could that be benefiting you? How could it be benefiting someone else? Or whatever it is, it just needs to feel good ultimately. And make a little bit of time and space for that.
Yeah.
Because you're right, I think in modern day life, it's very easy to forget about these really high vibrational feelings, because life is busy and there's a lot to do and there's a lot of pressure and blah, blah, blah. We're being bombarded from every single size. So it's good to remember, actually, no, let's find places where we can feel enthusiastic. We can find those feelings of excitement. And I think sometimes this feeling can almost be, it's kind of the meaning you put to it, because actually there might be something. It's such a close feeling sometimes to feeling a little bit nervous or anxious about something. So you can
Butterflies in your
almost,
tummy.
yeah. So you can, and it's also, it's about how the meaning that you're giving that. So if there's something in which is coming up, and it might be something at work, it might be you've got to go and do some sort of presentation, which you're really you're thinking in your mind, I'm really dreading that because it's making me so nervous. Actually, again, could you just try and flip that and just go, okay, this is slightly out of my comfort zone. I'm not really looking forward to that. But that those sensations in your body, the butterfly feelings and that sort of, is actually very similar to some of the feelings we get when we get excited, or we get, get those sort of higher vibrational feelings like enthusiasm. And it's almost like, can we just switch that up and just think, oh, okay, well, maybe actually I am quite excited about this. Can I bring a bit of enthusiasm into this, because it's going to totally change. It's how it's the story that you're connecting with those feelings. So particularly that really works with a little bit of nervousness, anxiety, because it is very similar feeling in the body. That is the story that you attach to it.
And you know what? It's like we have to choose these things. Like, we have to choose joy. We have to be intentional about finding things every day that make us feel joy. Because, like, yes, the world is in a state, but do you know what? The world's always in a fucking state. But also there's always great things going on as well. Like, there are equal amounts of beauty in the world as there is shite in the world. Like, it's just it's always the way that it is. It just depends where you're looking. It depends on the lens that you are choosing to look through. That is what you're going to find. So, but when it comes to things like joy and enthusiasm, we have to choose them. We have to cultivate them within ourselves. It's one of the, I think one of the best skills that you can develop in life is to be able to cultivate joy, to be able to cultivate enthusiasm within yourself. It's like, I think we've talked about this before. I've certainly talked about it on the podcast, is how actually, we want to be more childlike. We really want to be tuning into that childlike wonder that we all had until, it got like ripped out of us as we kind of, got older. And then, we had all these layers of crap put upon us and all these beliefs. And suddenly we started becoming self-conscious, and suddenly we started worrying about other people thinking, and blah, 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 blah. And you sort of gradually lose that kind of childlike wonder. But actually, childlike wonder is something that we all actually we want to be finding that again. That's what we want, to remember how we used to feel when we were a kid, when we didn't give a shit what anyone else thought, and we would just feel how we felt and express what we were feeling without worrying about the judgment of other people. That is what we want, and ultimately, in fact, I was thinking about this literally this morning. Like, as you know, I'm turning 50 in a matter of weeks. And I was giggling to myself about something really ridiculous this morning, right? And I thought, bloody hell, you wouldn't think that I'm about to turn 50, because I still giggle at the exact same things that I did when I was 17 years old. And the funny thing is that, we think that as we get older, we become more sort of adult and grown up, but it's such a load of bollocks. We're just kids. We're just kids, all of us. Underneath, we're still exactly the same. And I always remember my mum used to say to me, darling, I still feel 16. And I'd be like, yeah, whatever, mum. And now I'm like, oh my God, I see what, I totally get it. Yeah. So let's find that childlike wonder. Rather than thinking, oh, I've got to be an adult, screw being an adult. Like, we, actually what all of us need is to tune more into the childlike, not necessarily childish, but the childlike side of us, and find that enthusiasm and just allow ourselves to kind of feel it, rather than being like, oh God, well, I can't, feel like a bit of a dick if I'm kind of like, I'll do things like, when I eat something delicious, right, I cannot contain myself. I'll be like, I will really express how, oh my God, this is so delicious. Like, you'll quite frequently hear me say things like, oh my God, this is the most delicious thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. And that, and every time I mean it. But it's like, we have to allow ourselves to feel those things. And also, you know, bringing it back to the woo-woo stuff that you and I talk so much about, we want to be feeling high vibe emotions as much as we can. We want to, because ultimately, whatever we are putting out, whatever is our main emotion, whatever is our dominant emotion, the way that we're feeling most of the time, that is what we're putting out into this infinite field that we're swimming in without even realizing it. And that is what we are drawing back into our lives. So actually, we want to prioritize emotions like joy and enthusiasm, because the more that we prioritize them, the more that we feel them, the more we are going to attract things on that same frequency into our lives. It is just the way that it works. And also, let's not forget, you know, if anyone who is currently rolling their eyes, which no doubt there will be, you know, if you think all of this woo-woo stuff is a load of crap, and I've said this so many times, please know that, quote, reality, the reality that we see with our five senses is less than 1% of what is actually out there in the universe. So when you think about it like that, you realize that there is so much more unseen and unknown than there is seen and known, and that can be sensed again by our five senses. So, you know, it's worth starting to tune into that side of life, because, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I think one way you can do that is to surround yourself by other people who are enthusiastic.
Totally.
If you're surrounding yourself by the drains, by the people who suck the energy out of you, then it's going to really affect you. And yeah, I think you have to be really conscious of how you are managing your own energy, because I know some people are more sensitive than others. You know, if you go, for example, around the supermarket, I can feel really exhausted after doing that, because you kind of feel like everyone's sucking everything from you. It's kind of like, oh God. But actually, so you need to just be thinking about, right, I just need to protect myself as I go around the supermarket and my energy, because energy, you know, it kind of constantly balances itself out. So if you're feeling really, really enthusiastic when you start somewhere, and everyone around you is feeling really low, then they're obviously going to take, you know, the law of physics will say that they'll take some of your energy. So you end up a bit flatter, but they'll end up a little bit better. So that's kind of how it works. So obviously, the more enthusiastic people you can surround yourself with, then fantastic. It's going to rub off on you. It really does rub off on you, and you know, your environment really does matter. What else was I just going to say then? I can't remember. I think the most important thing here is to just seek out, as you said, those moments of joy, those moments of things that light you up. Break the cycle. If you're in a cycle of feeling not enthusiastic, you've got to find a way of breaking that cycle. So that is intentionally choosing something which you know feels good. It might be, you know, and it's like all these things. It's like a circuit breaker. It might just be going outside. It might be, if you love playing the piano, go and play the piano. If it's music, go and put on a song and dance about. You know, I love sometimes going and doing a breathwork or a meditation, because sometimes that can really lift you out and circuit break those sort of down feelings to feeling much more up. And then it's easier to get enthusiastic about something. It might be going and cooking a really delicious meal and loving that. But yes, as you said, you've got to bring it to mind. You've got to make it a focus. You can't just expect it to happen naturally. And it's like all these emotions. It's a bit like courage. It's a bit like, you know, we talk about this all the time, don't you? You've got to actually find that, take an action forward, and then it will spark more of it. And the best thing is, once you find it, it's going to bring more of it. It's like, you know, you're going to start seeking it out a lot more. So
Totally.
yes.
Do you know one thing that's just occurred to me as well that's so interesting? And I think you and I have mentioned this before, but it's actually such an interesting thing to think about, is that actually, I think part of the problem with enthusiasm, or like showing enthusiasm or showing excitement, is, if you think about it, the way that most people are and the way that the world is, like, if you are a person who walks into a room and is like, hi, oh my God, is it the most amazing? You know, if you are like that, the awful, crazy, bonkers, fucked up, disturbing thing is that most people are going to look at you like you are insane, because it's so not normal if you think about it. Like if you go into, I don't know, a work meeting and you're like, hi guys, da, 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 da. Like most people will be sitting there like looking miserable, looking whatever. And I do think that sometimes we feel like we can't show that because it's almost like, you know, if you're walking down the street, right, like sometimes you see those things on Instagram, don't you, where like, for example, you might, like I've seen reels on Instagram where you just see some random person who's got his headphones on, he's walking down the street,
Dancing,
like,
I love those. Yes.
exactly, and it's the coolest thing. And like, God, wouldn't it be great if we were all dancing down the goddamn street? But the majority of people will look at that person like that. There'll be some people smiling, going, "That's so cool." But there will be a lot of people going, "What a freak! What a weirdo! What's he so happy about?" It's almost like you get questioned for, why are you so happy? What is wrong with you that you're so happy? If you actually think about it, it is insane. And actually, I think the reason, the way to kind of counteract that is to be one of those people who's bouncing down the fucking street, because that is how we're going to change. That is how we're going to spread the joy, spread the enthusiasm, by rather than being one of those people who goes, oh, well, I can't be, you know, I can't sort of do that because, you know, everyone's going to look at me. What's the worst that can happen? Like, why do we care so much? What is the worst that can happen? You know, if you're that guy with the headphones on, dancing down the street, that is just like joyous. And somewhere inside all of us, we want that. We want to feel like that. You know,
and I mean, I'd say those, you know, you were in a meeting and someone came in and they were so excited about what they had to share and what was going on. That is brilliant, because that lightens the mood. It makes everything much more exciting. It's, if you've got someone droning on, then, you know, you all want to fall asleep, and it's, you know, someone who is just so disinterested in what they're going to do. So I think, yes, enthusiasm is good. We've got to show it more and be more enthusiastic, and it just feels so much more expansive and such a, it you know, as we said, it's really contagious, and it's so if we can be the example, then it's going to spread out and ripple out to everybody else. So it's about really just finding those little nuggets to make us feel enthusiastic. But also it ties in with everything that we talk about, in that if you're not feeling enthusiastic about what you're doing, then it really is an invitation and perhaps a signal that actually you need to start looking at how can you make your life feel more enthusiastic. Because not that we have to be enthusiastic 100% of the time, but we should be feeling positive about the way that we're living our lives and the things that we are filling our days with and how we're living our lives.
Exactly. We should be feeling enthusiasm about at least something in our lives. And if there is nothing that we are feeling enthusiastic about, then there is something wrong. And we need to change something about that, because that is not a way to live. We should all, and like, you know, like we've already said, like, it doesn't mean we have to feel enthusiastic 24/7, 365, but we should be feeling it regularly about some aspect of our lives. Because otherwise, what the hell are we doing here? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And also about something which is coming up in the future. You know, if you look at your diary, you hopefully will see things in there which you feel really enthusiastic about. If there's nothing, it's time to get something in there which makes you feel enthusiastic.
Exactly. So that is everyone's challenge, is to go, if there's nothing you're currently enthusiastic about in your life, you've got to go and find it. You've got to go and find something. You've got to cultivate it. And on that note, we should probably wrap it up.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
It's been a joy. Oh, we're back on Wednesday, aren't we?
Yes.
Are we back on Wednesday? Yeah. Have we decided on a topic? I don't think we have we?
I don't think we have.
No, never mind. We'll come up with some old crap, probably.
Yeah. All right.
Lots of love, babe. Have a good day.
Right. Thank you. You too.
Bye. See you later. Bye. Bye.